curiosity. And I think in most people, curiosity has been diminished because there's so much fear, because fear shuts down curiosity. And I experienced this for a long time, for many years before starting to ask questions. That's why Quora was nice, because it was kind of anonymous. I could go on there and ask questions about it and be somewhat separated from the brand of the person who's asking the question. And then more and more, I realized the question asking was one of the most courageous things that we can do as human beings, particularly now, because now you can tell how serious is somebody about their own intellectual curiosity or open-mindedness. Is if you question them, do they shut down? Because if they shut down, it means that they're tied their identity to the thing that they're talking about, and that's it. And that a lot of people are starting to do that because of what you mentioned, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think one of the major things that we can do as people who like to consider a lot of different factors is basically remain in uncertainty, and say we don't know what's going to happen.
I know we're in a self-fulfilling prophecy and a self-fulfilling cycle, right? And it seems that most people know that, like, I'm pretty sure that most people don't want this to happen. But what happens is it connects with what we're talking about, Twitter, and everyone's plugged in, and listening and reading these ideas, which are rather radical and not like, people are mentioning really, really bad ideas, and we're all tuning into them. Everyone. And what happens is that I believe what happens with me is that it must be the whole consensus. What we're reading in Twitter, it's the whole consensus, you know? And my question is, how do we get out of it? We need to engage with uncertainty, as you said, but in a macro scale, like it feels we're going automatically into this destiny. Like
a part of us is, so I'm going to rip off of John Vervaeke here a little bit. He isolated a key term, which is cognitive distributed cognition. So, a tribe of 150 people, a tribe of 50 to 100 people in the jungle had a distributed cognition that was limited to that 150 people. So that was our evolutionary past, where it was a bunch of people with all trying to survive in the jungle, and they all had the same beliefs, and there was no really kind of dissent, or except for maybe minor things about how to get the food and stuff like that, until you ran into another tribe, and then it would be a lot of dissent. Or I don't want to get too much in my imagination there, but you have this thing called cognitive distributed cognition. Now add social media, and distributed cognition has changed to a crazy degree. And now we're hooked up, as you said, but we're hooked up to our own kind of thought spheres, immediate media environment. So you got this cognitive distribution, and we are not prepared for it in the same way that we aren't prepared for limitless sugar everywhere. So we're kind of just like, we got to figure it out. And then the same way in the 1920s, I think radio was invented in the early 1900s, radio was invented in the 1920s, leads to people like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who can talk really, really well and get a whole bunch of people motivated. Also leads to Hitler. And then, also then add the TV in there as well. And that's TV, particularly in the 60s and the 70s and later on. It's like, then it goes into cable news, and then you get Fox News, and you get, Trump is probably very related to the fact that he was on both Fox News and also reality television, which are two themes that we aren't prepared for as well. Now add social media. And so it all goes back to something that I learned from one person I interviewed, Elliott Pepper. And Elliott Pepper said that we are living in an age of acceleration. And so everything is going really fast, and it's incredibly stress producing. So we're all under a huge amount of stress to try to adapt our brain that has had all of these influences for the last 100 years, which are now coming to a head, and coming to another head, because they've come to a head at various times over the past 100 years. And so we're going into that again. And to answer your question, it might be a little bit of a pessimistic or a cynic. I don't think we have any control over where we're going. We've already gone into it, and we're headed there, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so for my own I can't answer what other people are doing, but for my own thing, and I think John Vervaeke would actually agree with me. I'm going to try to wake up. I like spiritual awakening. The best thing I can do for myself, my family, and those people who are closest to me, who can then maybe hopefully spread out beyond that, is to aim to wake up from the dream that I'm living in, and the dream that we are all distributed in. And that distributed cognition is essentially, it's a dream. Because when I look at the tree, I don't see the tree. I see my shared illusion of the tree that you also see. And I think that's probably the best thing we can do, is to aim, unless you're in a position of power. But I think even in positions of power, it's no longer about the truth, or maybe if it was never about the truth, but if you're in a position of power, you've got so many other incentives to do the wrong thing, as we've seen in this pandemic. So yeah.
Wow.